welcome back to Morning Shot, ladies and gentlemen. And before we start, can I remind you, over 60% of our audience is not subscribed. So if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to the video and help us on our journey to 100,000 subs. Before we start the main video, can I just congratulate Guateng McKenzie. So Guateng McKenzie ran the Nelson Mandela Bay fun run, the 5-kilometer fun run on the weekend. And for those of you who have never run a fun run as a, should we call him, an overweight individual, yeah, it's not fun. But he did it anyway. This minister appears to be taking his job as the Minister of Sports and Culture very seriously. Take a look. Now, it's important to start off with a clip from Guateng McKenzie for one reason. Guateng McKenzie was challenged by the EFF for his involvement with the GNU, and he had this to say.
South Africa is gonna have the best 5 years. They say the GNU is not gonna last. I saw the EFF say the GNU is not gonna last. Can we really take them serious? Were they not the same ones that said they're a government in waiting? What waiting? We are still waiting for them to come into government. I've even overtaken them. I'm a minister today. Because let me tell you something, the voters has told us, get together, build this country. We will not give one particular party all the power. You must share the power and find a way to work together. And that's what we are doing. We are building the country. We are leaving our differences behind. Do you think I don't have differences with the Democratic Alliance? I've got lots of differences, but for the sake of the country. I've got differences with the ANC, but for the sake of the country. They've got differences with me, but for the sake of the country, we must hold hands. People are out there, they are hungry, they are poor, they are destitute, they are unemployed. The time has come for us to take the bull by the horns. And I'm glad that I'm in the executive, because I'm one person, I'm results driven. And South Africa is in for a treat. Money buys a massacre.
Now, comments like this become important because, as you will all know, for those of you who do live in Johannesburg, Johannesburg as a whole is disintegrating before everybody's eyes. There are numerous headlines showing the decay going on in Johannesburg. In Gauteng, because of a, let's call it, political dispute with Panyesa Lesufi, where the DA couldn't form part of the provincial government of national unity, he cobbled together a government of other parties that excluded the DA from the PNU. This caused a lot of issues with some of the, let's call them, multi-charter party type parties. One specifically was Action SA. And Action SA at the time came out and said, we are going to stick to our principles. Our principles are we will never help the ANC to retain power whilst we are around. Now, the reason that Action SA came out and said that is because they had been campaigning to remove the ANC at all costs. There are numerous headlines, numerous articles, numerous calls of action, which Herman Mashaba himself has given, where he pledged, I will never keep the ANC in power. My goal as a politician is to exclude the ANC at all costs. So since the actual elections, the Action SA has pledged itself into becoming the official opposition. I mean, they're not really the official opposition because they're not big enough to be. But they said that they would play the opposition role to the ANC and the GNU in general. Well, it now appears that Action SA is changing their mind because they are now considering working with the ANC in order to stabilize Gauteng and Johannesburg. Now, the reason for that is because we are expecting a vote of no confidence to get rid of the existing governmental framework in those areas that are failing service delivery. Action SA says this is being sponsored by the DA, and as a result, they will help the ANC retain power there because it's the best for citizens. Well, this led Dean McPherson to come out and basically say that Herman pledged to never work with the ANC in 300 years. And it turns out the 300 years is just 3 years because it was 3 years ago that they made that claim. So the point that Dean is making is that if you make a pledge as a politician, voters should be allowed the opportunity to believe what you say. They are electing you based on the pledges that you are making. If you're constantly changing your pledges, how can they trust anything you have to say? So what you should do as a good politician in these instances is say, Our priorities have changed. This is the rationale that we use. Dean is, after all, simply pointing out the contradictions in the promises and the narrative given. Now, this becomes really curious because of the actual response given by Herman Mashaba. And the response can be seen here, and I quote, says, "This son of the National Party member was under the impression that we will let them take over our country and control and subject us to apartheid policies again." What Herman Mashaba is effectively doing here is providing a slur against Dean. In philosophy, we call this an ad hominem argument. An ad hominem argument is basically where, rather than address your point, I slate your character, because the point itself can't be refuted. So all I do is I just attack your integrity. We see ad hominem arguments in South Africa all the time. It's effectively the whole idea of, I'm not going to listen to you because you're a racist. That's basically what he's saying, right? National Party, he must be like a Ku Klux Klan member. Who cares what he has to say? Because his parents, they drove suppression in South Africa for centuries. This is the type of EFF rhetoric. But then when Herman Mashaba hears allegations that he was nothing more than an EFF mayor, he goes, well, that's a slur. Yeah, but it's true, isn't it? Because that's effectively what you're doing. You're using the same rhetoric as the EFF would use. This isn't rhetoric befitting of an individual who claims to want non-racialism. It's the rhetoric of an individual who wants to use racism to bolster their political opinion. Stoic South African went and challenged Herman Mashaba on it directly. And to that, he gave this response. As you can see, is the son of the National Party member qualified to say anything about others? And you're comfortable with that. What's this got to do with the argument? Why are we using a slur to just dismiss Dean? It's not a rational way to hold political discussions. But unfortunately, this is the type of political discourse that Herman Mashaba intends to engage in. We noticed that even when we interviewed him twice, and the comments made frequently during it were, look at the DA, they're a racist political party. Race, 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 race. What you tend to see with politics of racial grievance is this type of rhetoric. This is not a healthy way to engage in debate. At least when you come through to someone like Guateng is very clear on what his priorities are. He wants power in order to effect change. He doesn't hide from that. He wants to have change in the country. He knows what he needs to do it. That is why these comments are being made. Because politicians in South Africa frequently say things and then flip-flop around. The electorates are relying on the promise that you are making in order to improve their lives. What they don't want to see is constant flip-flop, flip-flop. And what we're seeing here with Herman Mashaba is a clone of the EFF. It is nothing more than a political racial grievance party at this point in time. And for him to prove us otherwise, he needs to stop using comments like this. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment sections below. This type of political discourse, to me, is the lowest of the low. We shouldn't be having it in South Africa. But yet again, we are. From a political party that claims to not adopt these type of rhetorics. But again, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until next time.